If you look up the etymology of the word religion, you'll find its Latin roots. Re means again, and that's combined with ligare, which means to bind together. So a religion will re-ligare, will bind together again. So religion in this sense has a deep connection with the word rely, which comes from similar roots. Rely means to attach, to depend on something. What has been separated? What needs to be bound together again? I think a good religion will find a way to make it clear that you or me or anyone who feels separate can realize our interdependence with all of life. We are already inextricably bound together with everything, but we don't realize it. We have forgotten it. We feel disconnected and separate. We don't rely on the rest of the universe. We need to rebind ourselves from our separateness back to togetherness. So to me, this is the function of religion. The trouble for me as I set out to rebind myself is that I only rely on things I like, the things I approve of. I don't know how to take in the full catastrophe, as it's been called. When I look clearly at my partiality, I can reflect on how particular I am about what I like and what I don't like. When I see how I rely only on the things I call good, it becomes clear my partiality leaves out many things I am still deeply connected to. All the good things that I think are good are going to fade and change and shift. If a thing I call bad changes, well, that can make me happy. Who wants a bad thing to keep hanging around? But all my good things are going to fade and change as well. There appears to be no sustainable place to put my hopes. It seems normal to me that a certain idea comes at this point. The idea is that, quote unquote, things of this world must be transcended. I will have to put any faith I have in what cannot be seen, what is beyond the physical world I find myself in. I look towards something maybe at a quote-unquote higher level, something higher but still connected to the world I live in. I look toward a religion, a way to come back together again with everything. So this makes sense to me to a point, but there are potential problems with religions, potential pitfalls. And to me, anyone who has a religious inclination needs to be aware, or at least consider, these two pitfalls. The first pitfall is that whatever I look for in a religion, it's going to tend, at least at first, to resemble what I already find, what I already imagine of my physical world. So to me, this is what happens when people look beyond the physical world and they find God, but call him the Father. I already have a father. I don't need another father. Having a metaphorical father might be comforting, but it doesn't explain anything to me in terms of something that transcends this world, since it's using a term I'm already familiar with. In my own personal case, the familiar idea I took with me on my pursuit, my religious pursuit, was to make a goal of awakening. I wanted to awaken into some kind of enlightenment. This was the ideal I felt compelled to pursue, but I only pursued it because I was familiar with it. At least some way that I was imagining it was made of things that were familiar to me. We all do this. We all take our predilection to name things, to describe things. We take that with us as we try to lift our eyes up off the physical plane and try to look toward a religious plane. But even just calling them planes is a reference to a familiar image. I place the physical and the religious on different planes as if they existed separately from each other, as if they could be distinguished as separate. So that's just more of the first mistake. I tend to want to arrive at my religious destination. It's as if I'm carrying a little suitcase of all my conceptions and ideas and all the ways I think of the world. I'm carrying that with me. I'm taking that with me on my journey towards whatever religious goal I'm trying to get to. So that's where I came up with the idea of trying to travel toward a religion that does not exist. I want a religion that's going to kind of like have a customs checkpoint on the way. Some place where it says, sorry, you got to leave that bag behind. You can't take your conceptions with you as you continue on the journey. They're going to be there when you get back. But at some point, you have to put your suitcase down. That's what I was looking for. Or I realized that's what I wanted to have in a religion. And that's what I wanted to talk about today. Hello, and welcome to the 10 Crutches podcast. My name is David. I'm glad you're here. So, to review, the first problem with forming any religion or pursuing any religion or joining any religion is we're going to carry our stories with us of how to make sense of the physical world, and we're going to be doing our best to import them into the religion. And then that religion is supposed to help us try to transcend the world, but we just brought the world into the religion. The second problem is that I, as the separate being that I am, I see the world in terms of separate things. Then I either tend to like that thing, or I dislike that thing, or maybe I just ignore the thing altogether. My liking will tend toward greed. My disliking will tend toward aggression. And my tendency to ignore will protect me from seeing just how much damage my greed and aggression are causing. I mean, who wants to look at how much damage they're causing in the world? Very few people, apparently. I carry my greed and aggression with me wherever I go. Our culture, which includes our rules around politeness and our criminal laws, our culture often acts in ways to limit this acting out of greed and aggression, at least for most people. I mean, a lot of people get a pass if you're rich enough and powerful enough. So that leaves plenty of greed and aggression that is normalized and allowed to manifest. The greed and aggression, they lead us humans to play power games. They lead us to keep score. And once we need to keep score, well, then we need to find ways to distribute wealth and resources so that they favor some few over the many, so we can keep score like that. Greed and aggression means that humans will tend to skew towards the maldistribution of wealth and power. So this second problem with religion is that we have to recognize any organization must contend with a very human tendency to grab for wealth and power. I think this is especially true of religious organizations. Any group that forms to address these bind together again issues, any group that tries to address religious issues must contend with human greed and aggression. How will they do it? It's worth considering. If you belong to some religion, how are they contending with human greed and aggression? So to review again, any attempt to form a religion, to study what is transcending of this world, what is meta to this world, metaphysical, to study metaphysics, any attempt is going to face two very difficult problems. I don't know if it's the only two, but it's worth mentioning them and considering them. The first is the way we carry images of what we already know into the religion. And the second is our greed and aggression and our ignorance, which will always be present of all the humans participating. It must be managed at the same time as it gets included as part of what is studied in the religion, along with some effort to heal the greed and aggression. So otherwise, our attempts to bind together again, our attempts to be religious, may just degenerate into another way to act out greed and aggression. So here are some questions I believe are a good way to assess a religion. Do the people who follow this religion become more generous, more loving? How do you handle the human tendency to want to build up wealth and power in the world at the expense of others? What practices do you have to help me see beyond my personal likes and dislikes? And because re-ligare is the Latin root word of religion, because that means bind together again, how will your religion help me and everyone and the world bind together again? Ultimately, any religion, even the most metaphysical, needs to manifest inside this limited physical world and still somehow be a finger that points to what cannot be named. But most of us are like the little dog I have named Leo. He's in some other episode when I talk about picking up his poop. Leo's a Shih Tzu, very sweet, not the sharpest tool in the shed. If I throw a toy at him and he can't find it, I've tried this pointing and saying, there, it's right there. But Leo has never once looked where my finger was pointing. He just keeps looking at my finger. So when it comes to a religion, a religious finger pointing at the moon, I think we're all like that, just looking at the finger to some extent. I think a good religion will disappear in a way. It won't be solid. It won't be possible to pin it down. It certainly wouldn't have anything to do with fighting with other religions. We all emerge from the same metaphysical void. A good religion will help us re-ligare, will bind us back together again with everything in this world that's emerged from the void, as well as the void itself, which is to say, it won't actually do anything at all since we're already bound together integrally with everything, in everything, of everything. Or perhaps I could say a good religion will seem to start on another plane, will seem to be pointing somewhere else. But in the end, it can only bind us to the world itself, the world we thought we were separate from. It can help us become whole and united beings in a whole and united world, a united world we thought was divided into good and evil, that we thought was divided into absolute right and absolute wrong. I think a good religion will help you see your wanting good to win over evil was kind of like wanting your right hand to win a fight with your left hand. A good religion disappears as it helps you discover both hands are part of the same one body. Thank you so much for listening. I'll see you next time. Please visit the home of the 10 Crutches podcast at 10crutches.link. That's 10crutches.link. The book that inspired the podcast, a book I wrote called 10 Crutches for Walking in the Present, is available for free download on the website. Also on the website, you can visit the archive to hear any published episode and see show notes for any and every show. Thanks so much for listening, And once again, thanks so much for listening. And I won't say it once again. See you next time.